As cybercrime proliferates, almost every company, government organization, NGO, and consumer will be impacted by one form or another. Whether it's massive ransomware or DDoS attacks, cybercrime is a reality of digital life. For Tech Republic and ZDNet, I'm Dan Patterson with Neil Walsh. He's the chief of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. That's UNODC Global Cybercrime Program in Vienna. Neil, thanks once again for your time today. I'd like to talk a little bit about the process of law enforcement, how we track and catch criminals. I know that is your entire area of study, and it's hard to kind of squeeze that in to a succinct précis. But let's start with a crime. Let's say a company has been hacked and data has been exfiltrated. What on the UN level or diplomatic level, a governmental level, what do law enforcement agencies, where's the first step, and what is the trail that law enforcement agencies follow?
Hi Dan, thanks again for giving us your time. You and your viewers will understand that we're not going to go into any classified detail here or detail that would help the opposition to do their work. But like everything, like any crime, the first point is recognition that it's actually happened. And everything we see around the world, especially in cybercrime, is that often takes a large amount of time. In fact, there's some statistics out there that say that before a cybercrime, for example, an infiltration of a system is detected, could be 13, 14, 15 months, maybe even longer. So the start point is recognition that something has happened. And then if you're a business, what do? Do you call the police or do you not? And some businesses choose not to call in law enforcement because they're concerned about their share value. Others will then make that call. And then that's where the investigative start point will come, to look at what's happened, how has it happened, what are the indicators of compromise, how have cyber criminals or those associated with them done their business.
So what types of crimes do you investigate and the United Nations see as a top priority?
Sure. So within the UN, we don't run any investigations, but we certainly mentor the capability of law enforcement, prosecutors and judges in different bits of the world. So for the moment, my staff are based in Central America, Northeast Asia, Southeast Asia, North Africa, and Eastern Africa as well. And it very much depends on what's happened, where, at what point in time. And you'll understand that in each country, even in different areas of the same country, very much it may depend on the capability and the skill level of law enforcement. If I think of some of the bigger operations and bigger results we've seen over the past year or two, we've had significant impact on online pedophiles who have been active in Guatemala and El Salvador with really good convictions of highly predatory pedophiles who have offended against many, many children, right the way through to other parts of the world where we've had online banking compromises, where we've helped to recover the proceeds of crime, we've helped to identify where evidence may sit. So it really depends on where it's happened.
Do you see trends emerging? Obviously, there are always consistent forms of cyber attacks. I'm thinking specifically about maybe DDoS or attacks that take less sophistication. But do you see, as web tools become easier to use and as the world undergoes digital transformation, do you see particular trends emerging that are top priority?
Again, I think we see differences in different parts of the world. Last week, we saw some stuff on open sources about a highly capable, highly technical nuclear system compromise that was simply sitting there on the internet. And as you know, and a lot of your viewers will know, that we see the context of cybercrime as a service, where you have a highly skilled, highly technical crime group who will offer their service to criminals, to terrorists, and to offensive host nation capabilities as well. So that's one thing. I think what we continue to see as well, and if you look at the data that we see coming from Interpol, from Europol, we see the risk of chief executive officer fraud, where somebody may compromise my email or create an email that looks like me, send that to one of my staff and get them to move a large amount of money out of an official bank account, and then we lose control of those funds. And we see that continuing to happen around the world, irrespective of jurisdiction.
And how do you then advise policymakers and business leaders to proceed? Again, without giving away your specific methods, but what are good for a good advice?
Our key advice is that you have to have at a government level a national cybersecurity strategy and actually make sure that that's implemented and that a government knows at a high level how to respond. So you might have seen actually in the press in the past couple of days, the head of the UK National Cybersecurity Centre saying that it's only a matter of time until the UK government faces a critical cyber attack. And I think that's something we would see reflected across the world. If you recall, one of the times we spoke last year, just after the WannaCry ransomware attacks happened, we saw the impact that that had on government, on healthcare, on banking systems. So have a strategy, have it in place, and actually know what you do when the wheel comes off. There's no point having a strategy written that hasn't been through a tabletop exercise, that hasn't been war gamed.
That's good advice, and it's good advice to reiterate as we move into the new year. Neil Walsh, what can we anticipate? Obviously, we see the rise of cryptocurrency, but what about attacks that target critical infrastructure or serve to undermine governments and established agencies in the next year? If I'm in charge of something, no matter how big or small that thing is, what should I be worried about this year?
The best question, and I guess getting the crystal ball out now to try and predict. I think we're going to continue to see a proliferation of attacks that are through Internet of Things, IoT compromises. We keep seeing hundreds of thousands of devices that are being compromised and turned into a botnet or a robotic network. And it would seem to me that if we can buy, I don't know, any sort of connected device online and the username is login and the password is password, then that's going to continue to make things hard. We can't be in a position where it's down to the consumer or the user to put cybersecurity onto their devices. That has to come as standard, because you wouldn't buy a car and then decide for yourself how many seatbelts you need or where you think the airbags ought to be. That has to be the same for a connected device. That you buy it and it's in a position to safeguard your data and safeguard your cybersecurity. I think at a government level, we're going to continue to see the impact of ransomware, be it as ransomware for genuinely making money, or we've seen the wiperware and the sort of WannaCry attacks that, again, look like a probable state-based attack as well. That will continue to increase. But remember, like all types of crime and terrorism, criminals will seek to infiltrate and exploit weakness. So if you have weakness in your cybersecurity, you have weakness in your legislation, you have weakness in the capability of your policing and law enforcement to respond, criminals will target that and try to exploit it.